The following lecture was delivered by Mwewa Chambika, MIM Institute Series Lecture Number 1. We will not introduce you by going over the definition of what cell biology is, but we state cell doctrine/cell theory is currently the accepted way of describing the fundamental structure that an organism needs to carry out life processes. In biotech, we view cells as machines that are controllable and modifiable to perform certain tasks. The modification techniques include metabolic engineering. Here you need knowledge of various cell components that perform certain tasks. You can also modify the cell component individually. Soon you see the reasons why we talk of the molecular structures of components in this series. It is easy to predict simple parts of these processes, though it is not an exact science. To change the metabolic characteristics, you can also add or subtract cell components. This time, the scientific community can create an artificial cell. For example, in 2003, the NASA scientific community created a red cell substitute. Liposomes are a promising artificial area in biotechnology, which is finding many uses in artificial tissues and biological robots. The following drawing is a simple demonstration of a eukaryotic cell. So this eukaryotic cell has in the center a nucleus that houses the DNA, and around it you have the endoplasmic reticulum. On the endoplasmic reticulum, you have ribosomes, and around the ribosomes within the cytoplasm, you have lysosomes, you have the Golgi body, the mitochondrion, you have the cell membrane. So here is the division of cell components. The scientific community divides cells into cell membrane, cytoplasmic reticulum, genomic material. The cell membrane. It is a fluid mosaic bilipid layer embedded with proteins and has a major function of partial permeability. Cytoplasm. It is the fluid medium within the cell housing cell organelles. Genomic material. It is the entire heritable material and is passed on to the next generation. Microorganisms are also called microbes and include bacteria, fungi, prions, protista, viroids, and viruses. Some bacteria are helpful to the body and don't cause disease. They are single-celled organisms that have a very simple cell structure and a cellular genome composed of DNA. Cells of bacteria are called prokaryotes. Their genome is located in the nucleoid. No specialized components are known in the bacteria. Prokaryotes are usually 1,000 times smaller than eukaryotes. Many bacteria possesses swimming appendages called flagella. Almost all bacteria have the cell wall covering the cell membrane. Fungi are a diverse group of organisms ranging in form from a single cell, such as yeast, to a mass of branched, elongated, and stringy cells found in filamentous fungi. These are also eukaryotes. Eukaryotes have their DNA in nucleus. These also have compartments called organelles. Protista, this group of eukaryotes is primarily associated with diseases such as malaria and sleeping sickness. They comprise of plant and animal-like unicellular organisms. So we continue the very first lecture. We'll discuss the cell membrane. It is a continuous double layer of phospholipid stabilized by cholesterol molecules. It encloses the contents of a cell, simultaneously acts as a two-way selectively permeable transport system. Floating around the membrane embedded in the lipid layer are cell membrane proteins. This ocean of proteins is called fluid mosaic model. Fluid describes the motion of proteins in the membrane. Mosaic refers to the fact that the membrane is composed of a variety of proteins that appear arranged in a patched work pattern. It is within the cytoplasm that the cell carries out the metabolic reactions for homeostasis. Cytoplasm is divided into the cytosol and the organelles. Here you need to remember very well that what we are discussing is a eukaryotic cell, not a prokaryotic cell, which doesn't have cell organelles. So in a case where you were asked of what organism contain, of what eukaryote or prokaryote contains, you must be able to state that difference of organelles. So the cytosol is a gel-like fluid composing half of the cell's total volume. It contains thousands of enzymes that conduct a variety of cell functions, mostly associated with metabolic reactions for obtaining cell energy. Most of the chemical reactions in the cytosol is regulated by chemical information from the genetic material and the cell membrane. We move on to the organelle part. The organelles in the cytosol perform specialized functions. Cytosol is very important as it conveys information from the cell membrane to the DNA. It helps the DNA respond to environmental signals received by the cell membrane or special proteins called receptors in the cytoplasm. Here you also need to know that you can alter the cell membrane and cytoplasm, hence controlling the DNA. So it is possible to control the production of particular types of cell products by cultivating the cells in specific environmental conditions that favor one type of metabolism over another. This is also an example of metabolic engineering that was stated earlier on. Now let us fully discuss the organelles. So a group of 5 organelles common to most eukaryotic cells form a succession of membrane structure involved in the manufacture and movement of molecules and cell parts. These structures are collectively called endomembrane system and include the nuclear envelope, cytoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, vesicle, and cell membrane. So these vesicles communicate, these system communicate by means of vesicles and a continuous membrane system, and also the nuclear envelope is what helps in genetic transduction. It conveys information from within to the outside and also outside to within, and also helps in the conveyance of genetically important molecules. The endoplasmic reticulum connects to the nucleus by means of tubes, and it is a continuous membrane network which is surrounded. One part of it has ribosomes on it and the other part doesn't have, and this is the part which is called rough endoplasmic reticulum. Because it has ribosomes, it appears rough morphologically to us under the microscope. And the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is called smooth because it really appears smooth. It lacks, in other words, the ribosomes. This endoplasmic reticulum has one important major function. It helps in the transportation of genetic materials from the outside into the nucleus. The ribosomes are involved in the manufacture of proteins, and they are themselves composed of nucleic acids and proteins. There are some eukaryotic cells which contains a region around the smooth endoplasmic reticulum called the ergastoplasm, and it's important in the manufacture and storage of certain lipids and certain carbohydrates. The ergastoplasm is a system of sac-like membrane folds in areas where the ER is continuous with the plasma membrane. Within the cell is the Golgi body, which was named after a 19th century Italian physician, Camillo Golgi. It is also called the Golgi apparatus or Golgi complex. Those cells which are heavily involved in the manufacture of secretions such as the cells of the mucus cells, they contain a lot of Golgi apparatus within them. So the Golgi apparatus is involved in modifying, storing, and shipping certain cell products from the ER. So if some of the vesicles were missing, they could form a basis for certain human diseases. The one part is the lysosomes, and the lysosomes are involved in the recycling of cell components and can be activated to cause cell death if needed. Cells can program their own death using a strategy called programmed cell death or apoptosis, which is studied in many biotechnology laboratories. However, it is not like suicide for the whole human. No. This one is simply programmed because it's a necessity. You need to destroy certain cells which may be infectious or even can no longer function. They are worn out, they have grown old, and so on and so forth. So when you look under a microscope, you will see a number of these cells are they are bursting, like they are being eaten out and being destroyed. Their components are gushing out. Vacuoles are related to vesicles except that they are produced by the cell membrane. They are mostly for the storing materials produced in cell or taken into the cell membrane by a process called endocytosis. The vacuoles of plants are very valuable. Another group of organelles are called endosymbionts. An endosymbiont is a prokaryotic organism that lives within the cell of another organism. It forms an important relationship called endosymbiosis, formed from the Greek word endo meaning inner and biosis meaning living. The endosymbionts usually originate from the egg cytoplasm. This means that most organisms get these organelles from the female parent. Endosymbiont organelles contain genetic material and work in cooperation with the cell's genome. The health of a cell is monitored by information transmitted between endosymbionts and the cell nucleus. Now we shall a little go over the two important endosymbionts, and these include the mitochondrion and the chloroplast. So the mitochondrion carry out aerobic respiration of the cell by taking in oxygen and simple molecules from the cell to produce much of the energy needed of the cell function. Mitochondria give off carbon dioxide and water as waste products. Now, eukaryotic cells can have hundreds of mitochondria. They help determine the metabolic rate and an energy needs of an organism's cell. The chloroplasts, they carry out metabolic process called photosynthesis, and it is an anabolic process in which chloroplasts, with the aid of chemical called chlorophyll, convert carbon dioxide, water, and inorganic substances into oxygen, organic compounds needed to plant structure and function. So all these processes which are being mentioned, such as photosynthesis, respiration, all these shall be discussed in full details in the coming lectures, and they are so interesting, but here they are simply being passed over by mention only. Yes, let us talk of one endosymbiont, which is cytoskeleton, and it's an organelle that is a meshwork of protein filaments in the cytoplasm that gives the cell shape and capacity for movement. Additionally, it coordinates the function of centrioles, cilia, and flagella. So the centrioles assist in the cell reproduction. The cilia are hair-like processes on the cell membrane and are capable of rhythmic motion. This motion helps to move body fluids on the surface of a cell, including the lining of mucus inside the respiratory system. The flagella are independent endosymbiont organelles that work closely with the cytoskeleton. They are only found in protista and in the sperm of many organisms. They give sperm the ability to swim in the environment and in body fluids. The nucleus, though sometimes called the brain of a cell, this conception is misleading because it may not be very accurate, because all it does is simply store information, not necessarily the brain. So it may be correct to say it is simply the manual, okay, an instruction manual. There are a few exceptions. Every cell of the body contains a nucleus carrying an identical set of genomic information. Its main role is just genetic expression, and this is a process by which the genetic materials coded information is used to produce cell structures and carry out cell physiology. So part of it is protein synthesis or gene expression is the characteristic activity of genetic function that originates in the cell in the nucleus. It is defined as the process by which cells build amino acids into proteins according to genetic information contained within the cell's genome. Many proteins build the structural features of a person, while hundreds of enzymes give humans their metabolic characteristics. So this lecture ends here, and it was recorded on the 21st of March 2018 at MIM Institute of Technology. Remember to subscribe,